when you're speaking with someone who, you know, is interested in God but has written off the church, you tell them you're a pastor and you start telling one of these stories, and maybe in their mind they're thinking, oh, this guy, he's a pastor, he's trying to make a pitch at me, he just wants me to join his church, or he wants me to convert to Christianity and save my soul. All of these misconceptions, but also that have some unfortunate grounding with how the church has operated in recent years. How do you overcome that in your message, both personally and in the book?
Sure. First off, you have your presumption in that was that the end game is some. I'm not saying your presumption. Many presume that the end game is some formal decision that takes place in a almost in a way that's very clear cut. And I do think that ultimately everybody has to wrestle with some decision. Am I going to follow God or not? I mean, that's just an inevitable choice somebody has to make. But I think we have to let loose of how it's going to happen. And so for me, there are some evangelists, let's say like a Billy Graham or a Luis Palau or something like this, where when they seem to call people into a decision, people flow forth. I don't seem to have that gift. What I feel like my calling and my gift is to take people who are at the point of rejecting God to just simply opening the door to God. That's what, and so I don't feel a burden to somehow get them into some prayer or get them into some mature Christianity, or that I'm trying to do a sales pitch. Once I'm released of trying to get to some end, that my job that I'm best at is just simply to say, hey, it's not as scary as you think. It's actually maybe more beautiful than you think, and I'll let you wrestle with it. And I trust that either they're going to come back and want to talk more, or they're going to want to pursue somebody else who has that faith that can kind of take them on from there. And it's not that I don't want people to grow in that faith. It's just sometimes you have to know where your gift and your skill is. I was sitting in a bar at a country club one time, and there were two men sitting next to me. I just finished a round of golf, and I was talking with the woman who worked behind the bar, whom I knew, and she was asking me about church. And so she's asking me about church. These two guys overheard it, and so while I was sitting there talking, they turned and they started to ask questions. They kind of mocked me a little bit, and they were older guys with kind of rough and tough guys, even at a country club, and so they kind of mocked me a little bit. But I didn't feel like, man, I really hope today that they pray some prayer. I just wanted them to get over their fear or their questions. And so I just asked some questions. And you know what's awesome is that by the end of that half hour with them, each one of them stood up and shook my hand and said, you know what, if you were a pastor in this town, I would come check out your church. When that happens to you a lot, then that I would go all the way back to that's why I wrote. Because that's what happens a lot to me. Is it's just shatters those who have fully rejected. At least they're saying, well, maybe it's not as bad as I think.